Hello, my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.8.1 in my Next Small Step RP-1 career mode playthrough. And we are picking up basically right where we left off with our intrepid astronauts Valerie Dunn and Vicky Chambers on their way out towards the moon. Yes, indeed. They are heading out to fly around the moon. We are going to be getting lots of these contracts complete, the milestones. Congratulations, you set a new cruise altitude record. Don't you worry, there'll be a couple more of those. Ooh, we are getting just the first little bits of sunlight. Oh, how cool. Sunrise around Earth as we are flying out towards the moon. Yes, indeed. So we have about 4 days until we arrive in the sphere of influence of the moon. Turn off the maneuver planner. We're not going to need that. Turn off for now. It's fine. We'll leave it. Yeah, so you can see that we actually have a pretty nothing, oddly enough. Oh, was I time warping this whole time? No? Okay, I have no idea what's going on with the boil off, but I guess that's probably fine. Hopefully that'll recalculate. Because all I've done is I've just reloaded the game from where we were last time. So anyways, let's take a look at our stuff. We still have 3 days of water, and what that means is that's what our full tanks are. So we have 3 days that we can hold at a given time. And those tanks are full. So that's what that means. We are still getting as much water as we can from the fuel cell and dumping the rest overboard. We've got plenty of oxygen, plenty of nitrogen, plenty of lithium hydroxide for our CO2 scrubbers, and we have plenty of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen to fuel our fuel cells, and also the LOX to GOX converter. So yeah, we seem to be doing okay so far. We have 13 available EVAs from the stored gaseous nitrogen that we have on board, so that's good. Maybe I'll hop out a couple more times to see if we can't get other science, because I imagine that there's, other EVA science that we could do, right? All right, so don't ask me to do this math off the top of my head, but apparently 0.59 units of shielding translate to a 2.79 millimeter layer of what I assume is lead in the lining of the capsule that is protecting us from radiation. One of the big things I'm concerned about is radiation on this flight. So Valerie Dunn is about 6% stressed, and they are both experiencing 1% radiation, according to this little thinger right here. Unfortunately, this is in the way. Let's move that. There we go. Okay, radiation is nominal. Habitat radiation, environment 3 microsieverts per hour, I think. Micro, is that the right? Yeah, microsieverts per hour, which is not terrible, I don't think. Yeah, so I think we're okay. According to this, radiation is nominal, so what shielding we have is protecting us, and also our altitude is protecting us. So if we go to the map and press, I think, 0 on the numpad, yeah, you can see that we are pushing through the radiation belt. It looks like we are in between the two radiation belts because there's two toroids that are kind of linked. And so there's this inner one, and then there's this outer one. So we are going to be heading into another chunk of the, basically going through the Van Allen belts here, and that's probably going to be uncomfortable. So let's just speed it up and see how that goes. Exposed to extreme radiation. We are crossing the Earth's radiation belt. You can see radiation now is climbing. We are getting up over 4 millisieverts per hour. That's millisieverts now, by the way, not microsieverts. So we are experiencing an order of magnitude more radiation now than we were just a moment ago. But there's nothing else to do for it but push on through. So let's just time warp on through. We were at like 1 sievert per hour for a second there. That was not great. We should be nominal again. Yep, we are out of the Van Allen belts, and we are no longer too stressed about what do you call it? We're no longer too stressed about the radiation. We have enough shielding, and the shielding that we have got us so that only gave us about 1% radiation. So we still need to worry about radiation over time, especially because it's kind of cumulative from what I understand. But I think we'll be fine on this mission with the amount of shielding that we have brought on board. All right, so we are pointing down the back here. I'm still not getting any readings on heat penetration and boil off loss, so I'm hoping that this is not just all going to boil off. We have 1800 meters per second of delta V at the moment, and so we are indeed on our way. We are now heading up into Earth Space High, and I think the crew report for Earth Space High just went by, so I think it's also time for one of our intrepid astronauts to jump out. All right, so Vicky Chambers is going to be taking the next EVA. Letting go, bouncing off a little bit, that's totally fine. We're doing okay. We got plenty of nitrogen, oxygen, everything else. This is all just fine. Just free floating and taking an EVA report. Because there is indeed EVA report in Earth Space High, so we are going to be getting a couple more science experiments, which is going to be worth a good amount of science. Isn't that fantastic? Now let's see if we can't get a even better shot with our Gemini capsule with us here. Fantastic. So we are just surveying the spacecraft as we are finishing up this EVA experiment. Vicky Chambers has used up more than half of her nitrogen fuel because I have just been wobbling around wildly trying to get a good screenshot. So as I'm flying around here, I can talk a little bit about the actual first time that an astronaut was supposed to use basically what this suit is. So this is basically the Astronaut Maneuvering Unit, AMU, that was scheduled to be used on Gemini 9A, on the EVA on that mission. However, Gene Cernan had no end of trouble from the moment that he got into his EVA spacesuit on the Gemini spacecraft. He said that it when it inflated and they had it up to pressure, he had trouble moving around. He said it became so stiff it was like moving around in a rusty suit of armor, and it was just exhausting just to move around. And to start with, as you remember, I've mentioned, the astronauts would use a tether. And they had a little zip gun a little handheld zip gun that would provide some maneuverability, but not nearly as much as this suit here would give you. So what they would actually do is they would climb out of the Gemini capsule. Let's actually zip on over here to show you. So they would climb out of the capsule, and then they would try to clamber down the side of the spacecraft down to this unpressurized area here, where I've put a, thruster, but they actually had equipment that they would use for the EVAs. So they had extra fuel, they had the astronaut maneuvering unit and other things that they might need. That was stored back here. And by the time he got back here, his heart was beating so fast. He had his heart rate measured by the doctors down in mission control at up to like 180 beats per minute. So they were worried he was going to pass straight out, and he was only getting started with the mission. So they had to scrub basically using the astronaut maneuvering unit because they had so much trouble with him maneuvering around in his spacesuit. And that was something that they learned over the course of the Gemini missions, is that it is so hard to do just about anything out in space. You'd think that the lack of any material or any resistance whatsoever would make it so that it was easy to move around, but not so. The spacesuit that we would put astronauts out in is basically a spaceship in and of itself, like it has to be, right, by definition. And that meant that it was very difficult to maneuver in, especially in that early tech level, I guess you could say. So yeah, that was a big problem that he had, and they were actually really worried that Gene Cernan was going to be able to get back into the spacecraft. But thankfully, they were able to, and everything went fine, and they learned a lot from that they were able to then fix up on future missions. But they didn't actually use those maneuvering units again until 1984, so it wasn't until a space shuttle mission that they actually had those out again, which is why you see a lot of those iconic shuttle mission photos of astronauts wearing this maneuvering backpack that they would fly around in. That was just not something that was used until the space shuttle era, because they tried it out in Gemini, it didn't work out great, and they decided it wasn't actually necessary to the objectives of landing men on the moon. So, little spacesuit story for you there as we are on our way out. All right, so we are on our way up. We are just above geostationary altitude at the moment. We've gotten our science from our EVA science from inside orbit, or inside Earth high orbit. And we are on our way up, and we have gone through the most dangerous part of the radiation, and we are still pointed down the barrel at the sun. We haven't lost too much or any Delta V, really, so that looks like that is in good shape. This is the greatest experience I've had. It's just tremendous, says Ed White on the Gemini 4 EVA. I love those little quotes that they put in here. They go by so fast, though. Yeah, so we are on our way out, and one thing is we actually have on here, I think it's folded down so it's not actually in use, but there is a high gain Gemini antenna on here that I've mentioned that we were going to use, and that is what we are going to be getting good connection with, because that is an S-band directional antenna that is going to get us a really good signal down throughout our missions now and in the future. It's not something that I think is particularly necessary at the moment, especially since we're going to be bringing home this capsule, but it is important to mention that we do have that capability. All right, so we are, looks like we are burning through, there we go, we got boil off again. I'm not sure what caused that to like wake it back up so it's alive again, but we are indeed burning through some of our liquid hydrogen. I'm not too worried about it at the moment, but it's something that we should be watching as we are approaching. Because now you can see our Delta V is reducing just slightly, because there is a lot of good insulation and we are doing everything we can to minimize the heat on those tanks. All right, so as we get close, we have a ton of Delta V, and I am feeling pretty darn good about this little loop-de-loop that we're going to do here. So what I think I'm going to do is I am going to commit to a 2-burn flyby orbit. So we are, well, actually, we're actually just fine now that I think about it. Yeah, we are in there. But, oh, no, what we're going to do is I want to get us close. I want to do a low flyby, because why not, right? We're not going to be able to orbit, but that's fine. But we can do a nice low pass to get more science. Yes, science is the name of the game. So let's just fly right over the top. Let's just skim the top of the moon. 62 kilometers, I think, will be just fine. It's going to be in the dark side, but we got flashlights, right? That should be not a problem whatsoever. Yeah, so we are doing pretty good. That is the plan. I'm going to make just a teensy tiny burn, and then we are going to have a nice low flyby. And then what I'm going to need to do from here is we're probably going to need to burn hard. See what this is going to cost us. We are going to burn at our paraselene most of our Delta V, and that is going to bring us into a trajectory that brings us back home, and that'll bring us on an impact trajectory with Earth, and I'm going to use that as a disposal method for this Centaur upper stage. Then we can use the Gemini spacecraft to do final adjustments and then hit that atmosphere. All right, firing up the engines for our mid-course correction burn, and there we go. So let's see what that's done for us. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. All right. Let's go ahead and fix our fix that, because I just want that to be, oh, look at that. If you do a mix of radial, I need to go both radial and prograde. So if you do a little mix of both vectors, then you can actually reduce your overall delta V usage. Little tip that I'm figuring out in real time there. And that looks good. So let's plan for that. All right, we have just entered the sphere of influence of the moon. Messing with my camera a little bit. And I think it's time for Vicky Chambers to hop right back out, because we have more science to do, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get another EVA report, this time in the high orbit of the moon. Oh man, look at Vicky is absolutely blown away by this view of Earth so far away. 400 million meters from home. And she could not be more excited about it. All right, so I'm inspecting the Soyuz heat shield we have on the back here, and I'm really quite worried about it. I've been seeing some activity on the RP-0 or RO capsule's GitHub that suggests that I was actually missing the Gemini heat shield because of some kind of error in the configuration, rather than there just not being a lunar-rated Gemini heat shield. So I'm a little bit concerned that I am putting my astronauts in grave peril because I was too impatient to wait for the update. That's something that I would absolutely do. So yeah, let's just bonk off the spacecraft and just get back in at that point, because this thing is on the way. There's really nothing else I can do about that until next mission. Ooh man, okay, so I'm checking out the radiation levels now, and we are at 32% radiation. So these two are not doing awesome after this trip out to the moon. So I'm going to have to pack on more shielding, which is going to require me to do a lot more stuff, basically. We're going to have to deal with a lot bigger launchers for my Gemini, and I'm going to have to... Well, this thing had plenty of margin, but we're going to have to take that into account on future mission planning, because that is a dangerous amount of radiation to pick up on a single mission. And we are maintaining a good amount of our delta V. So that's actually a big thing that I was not sure how that was going to work with just 50 what do you call it? All 50 layers of MLI and no other active measures other than just trying really hard not to point it directly into the sun. I wasn't sure how much fuel I was going to lose, but apparently the answer is not that much. So we are doing just fine on all of our supplies, which is fantastic. All right, we are about half an hour to our burn at our paraselene. And we are going to be coming around to the dark side, not the dark side, but the far side of the moon here in just a moment. So let's go ahead and flip this around to execute this burn and use about half of our remaining delta V. All right, we are coming on down. Enough down that we can get to the close-up shaders for the moon. Yes, we can delete that. That's fine. And we are beginning our burn. Any second now. Pillaging up, and there we go. Yes, we have a good ignition on our RL-10 engines just above the surface of the moon. We could, in theory, orbit, but we would then not have enough fuel to get back home. So let's not do that. We are just going to make this an excellent kind of powered flyby that we spent a bunch of extra fuel on for safety margins in basically all respects. The original trajectory was to make sure that we had enough, we were able to get back home even if something terrible happened. Now we are putting ourselves in a trajectory where we are going to make a nice fast return home and bring us down. And we are just about finished. There we go. So another important thing, we are indeed just above the moon. So we are space low. So let's jump out with Valerie Dunn. another 48 science to be gotten on another EVA report as we thoroughly test out the astronaut maneuvering units in orbit of the moon, high orbit, low orbit. We'll go anywhere. These astronauts are just fantastic. Look at this. We are a mere 100 kilometers above the surface of the moon. Just skimming above the surface, moving at a rather rapid 3 kilometers per second relative to the moon, however. As the light begins to fade, we still have 1 minute to go, so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get this entire EVA report, but I didn't want to chance it on the way down, that's for sure. Now we are left in darkness with just the Milky Way in the background and the blazingly bright ambient lighting. Honestly, I prefer that too. Like, my eyes don't work so well in the darkness like that because of a surgery that I had. But it means that I get big halos around my vision in the darkness. And yeah, so this is not great. To have it to be completely just staring at a black screen. Like, that's not fun for anybody. So yeah, we have finished up. It looks like we have not been able to finish up the EVA report. But that's fine. Like, I'm not that worried about it. We'll be back. We will be back indeed. And that is the nice thing about Kerbalism, that you can basically you can split science up. But we got 333 kilobits back out of the total of 500, I believe, and we will be transmitting that science back as presently, actually. All right, so we are on currently a impact trajectory with Earth. So what I think I'm going to do at this point is we are going to say farewell to the Centaur upper stage. We no longer need it. Let's take a look. I don't think that we can actually do any fuel transfer. Yeah, for whatever reason, it does not look like I can get crossfeed all the way from this tank up to this one. I'm not sure what it is that's blocking it. I was just looking through the different things on the way. Yep, I've checked all the things on the way, but there's a lot of stuff in between the two, and I don't know what it is that's blocking it. I have enabled the crossfeed on the heat shield, or I had it enabled anyways. I just turned it back off again because I don't want to mess anything else up. And also on this retrograde section decoupler. But if it's not either of those, then I have no idea what would be the problem. So whatever, I'm not that worried about it. We should still have enough of everything to run the ship all the way back into Earth's orbit. So now we are going to release the docking port and unrigidize it. And then it's time to undock. And our Centaur upper stage backs away slowly, maintains the trajectory that is going to bring it down into an impact with the Earth, burning up in the atmosphere and removing all of this debris and clutter. And then we move over to our Gemini spacecraft and we see what we have going on here. We have another 12 days of liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen, 10 days of food, and then we still have the same situation with water, oxygen, nitrogen. So that is all perfect. Fantastic. Turn our RCS back on for the Gemini capsule because we are back to using that. All right, so now we are pointing retrograde in our current orbit, and you see we're getting a whole bunch of KCT upgrade points because I've just unfolded the really good S-band antenna, and so we are just like powering down all of the science that we've gained so far. Like it's all gone at this point, basically. Or gone back to the labs on Earth. Yeah, so with that done, we are not pointing anywhere near our friend here, so that's fine. So let's just see what we can do to change our trajectory, because we don't want to be where we don't want to come down where we're coming. Actually, let's escape the moon's orbit before we start stressing about this, actually. All right, so we are leaving the moon, and it is shrouded in darkness, and there's not much we can see, nothing too interesting to take a look at there as we fly away, heading back towards Earth. We are pointed as away from the sun as we possibly can. This way, radiation has to push through from the sun, through all of our tanks, and then up to our crew members, because I've heard that Kerbalism does model that, at least to some degree. All right, so we had the big flip there, and I think that means we are now in the sphere of influence of Earth. So what we're looking for is about that, where we are at 70, yeah, about 60, 65 kilometers. That's what we're looking for, looking at for our return. And then we are going to actually use the lifting re-entry profile, hopefully properly. I guess we'll see how well I do, but I know now what I'm technically supposed to do, right? How we're supposed to use that. And I just really have to hope that this Soyuz heat shield is big enough to cover the spacecraft. All right, so we are actually hustling back down towards Earth. It's only going to take us about a day and a half or so from the point of our lunar escape, or a little bit before our lunar escape when we were in low orbit, up until we reach the perigee on Earth. And then we will be coming back home. Oh no, solar storm in progress. We are exposed to intense radiation. Oh man, that is really not great. I'm doing the right thing, or everything that I can do to not expose them to any more radiation than is absolutely necessary, but there's nothing I can do to prevent this while they're already out there. All right, contract complete, crew duration 7 days. That was my first week-long trip, actually, now that I think about it. 3.5 hours of intense radiation. Woof. Puts us to 35, 36. That's actually not interesting. I feel like I got a whole lot more on the way out to the moon, so I don't know if there was just a more intense solar storm or what. But in any case, we are coming back down. All right, time to slow it down. We are coming back down into extreme radiation from the radiation belt, and that gave us another % or so. All right, so we are screaming toward Earth's surface here. You can see we are at 7,000 meters per second already, and we are accelerating rapidly because we are getting to the highest energy part of our orbit, where we will be going the fastest. So we should expect a little bit over 10 kilometers per second, I think, when we get to our perigee. So yeah, like I said, this is going to be a very spicy re-entry indeed. We are punching through the radiation belts once again. Oh my god, just so much radiation. I guess we're going to see how much they're healed of radiation damage when they arrive back on Earth, because I can't remember what my settings are for that. All right, our perigee is just in 11 minutes. So we are getting pretty darn close to our interface with the Earth's atmosphere, at which point we are going to be doing some moving around to make sure that we are in the correct re-entry attitude. We have just a couple minutes until that, so we're just going to keep on warping down. All of our science is returned. Everything is tucked away. We've done what we can. Everything is prepared. Our RCS and our control module is all settled. We have far too much ablator, so that should be good. Yep, and everything has worked out great so far. Like, we've actually got extra liquid hydrogen and oxygen because I think it was able to burn the liquid hydrogen and oxygen from the Centaur upper stage instead of burning the stuff that was on board. So that got us a little bit of a freebie, which is nice. plenty of nitrogen left, food, everything else. Yeah, because the trip home was a lot faster. Like, we are coming back home on probably a too fast trajectory. I probably could have found a safer way to get back. But if this is going to work, it was going to work either way. And if it's not going to work, it wasn't going to work based on my trajectory, I think. I don't think there was enough that I could have done with my Delta V that it would have actually mattered. So we are going to point ourselves surface retrograde, or orbital retrograde for now. And because it is just about time for us to decouple our equipment pack and the retrograde section and everything else. So I'm going to dump out wastewater, bring in electric charge. Yep, just dump the wastewater. That's really all that we need. All right, so we are just about ready. We have 4.5 minutes until perigee. Force roll to 90 degrees. Or I guess 0 degrees. Okay, 0 degrees it is. So that we can be in the right attitude as much as possible before we kick everything off and lose our extra thrusters and all that. All right. So we are just a minute or so away from interfacing with the atmosphere, so it's time to begin our preparations. So let us go ahead and jettison the equipment section. I'm just now remembering that I actually have these re-entry retro rockets as well, so I guess I might as well fire those. Enable this RCS to hold us in position. Yeah, because at this point this isn't doing much to our perigee, which is fine. All right, so that's done. Now it's time to kick off the retrograde section decoupler, and that leaves us with just our heat shield to guide us. So we are going now to surface velocity, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it hold surface velocity, but I'm not going to have it adjust our pitch. So if it holds our roll at 0 degrees and then I turn off the pitch, then I can turn on descent mode when we get down to about 100-ish kilometers. And that should keep us nice and steady and not burn extra fuel trying to hold a particular attitude. All right, we have hit atmosphere, and I am probably about to hope that, or wish that I had decoupled this in a different attitude so it wasn't directly behind us. Yep, you can see it's actually returning. It's coming back to sender. Oh, geez. Oh, no. No, 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 no. Ooh. That's not great. Oh, gosh. All right, let's turn descent mode on. And that should adjust our... Ooh, that is getting real toasty. All right, that is still pushing us down. Why is that? Should just be holding roll. Wah. All right, so there we go, and you can see that is reducing our vertical speed dramatically, which is the idea, because we want to stay now in this corridor as much as we can. And yeah, you can see that we are getting some heat on the capsule itself, which is not awesome. Once again, that is entirely my fault for this design here. But we are slowing down pretty quickly, and we are reducing our vertical velocity because we want to hold this position. How are we doing on fuel? We're doing okay on fuel. Let's go ahead and monitor that. I'm still burning a lot of fuel and I don't 100% know why. Okay, we are about to finish killing our vertical velocity, so I'm going to turn descent mode off. Just for a little bit there, because we are now heading back. Oh no! Oh no! What? Oh my god. Oh no. Apparently the heat shield has been destroyed. We are heading up, but we are still slowing down dramatically. So, oh my gosh. My only hope at this point is that we can rise up out of the atmosphere here. Descent mode is not on. Is that I can go up into a thinner part of the atmosphere and not heat up as much as oh my god. Because we are burning off our velocity. Oh no, we are heating up. But we are also slowing down. Oh, that heat is rising. I'm not sure there's anything we can do. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so sorry. Valerie Dunn, Vicky Chambers. I made a huge mistake. We return back to Earth on this terribly tragic day on which we have lost 2 of our astronauts. The first, some of the first of our Gemini class that has stepped up to explore space, knowing that it is hard and knowing that the person planning their missions is very, very dumb. But yes, we have lost 2 astronauts, and I have done some testing just to see what I might have done differently. And on the what you guys saw was the astronauts came back down, and I did a proper lifting re-entry, but I didn't have enough ablator. So I had actually reduced a lot of the ablator on the heat shield, regardless of whether it was Soyuz or not, because I thought on a lot of other missions like this one that I did not use so much ablator, and therefore this would be the same and it would not require that much. That was an incorrect assumption, and we burned through the ablator, and that is why the heat shield just popped like it did, because we burned through the ablator and then there was none, and the what do you call it? The heat characteristics changed very suddenly in that case, and that led to exactly what you saw, where as soon as the ablator was gone, the heat shield was no longer able to deal with the heating load that we were seeing, and it exploded. On one other try that I did, just as an attempt to see if there was a way that I could get around this, I pushed a little bit deeper, like I had a slightly lower perigee, and the command pod itself exploded because of, like, even though I was directly into the airstream, the command pod exploded because of that thing that I was afraid of, where the heat shield was not completely occluding the command pod. So it seems like I was doomed one way or the other on this one because of poor planning and because of lack of testing. And so we salute Vicky Chambers, Valerie Dunn, intrepid astronaut, some of the first into orbit. We will miss you, and I am very sorry for what I have done. But now we must carry on. This is not the end of our space program. I'm not going to have the politicians end our space program as a weird role-playing thing. We're just going to carry on because that was terrible and it was awful. And but in actual gameplay terms, it doesn't look like there's much in the way of punishment that I can see. So Johnny Flores and Lisa Kim are training for the next mission, and I will go and I will see if I can't find the proper heat shield for the Gemini spacecraft. In the meantime, I think, like I said, there was a GitHub update that might resolve the issue that I have of it not appearing. That's just because I arbitrarily pick a weird spot to go like, okay, this is the version I'm updating to and I'm never updating again. And then like a week later I go, oh, but there's new updates that I want. So yeah, always chasing after the newest stuff is what causes things like this to happen. All right, so we are here at the astronaut complex looking for our next class of astronauts. And it looks like we're going to take Thomas Reed as a new pilot. Yes, indeed. And Stanley Wood, I think, is our scientist. And let's get an engineer. There's some experiments that we need an engineer for. So let's take, looks like Wanda Riley, as brave as can be. The bravest astronaut we have other than Johnny Flores, but not nearly as dumb. All right, so there we go. We got a couple extra astronauts that are going to help make up for my failures. And that's really the punishment that I've paid is the money that it required to train them. So yeah, very, very unfortunate. Sad day indeed. But now that they are all set up, it's time to put them into proficiency course for the Gemini, and that's going to take them over a year. Okay, so this is the real punishment. Yeah, because they're not going to be ready for Gemini until I'm practically done with the Gemini. Good lord. But we must carry on and move forward with our space program. We have a full mission loadout here of payloads to various places. So we have another lunar returner to make up for the fact that I forgot to press play or record that one time. We have a couple geostationary satellite tests that I may or may not actually show because they're probably going to be very boring. So, or not that they're boring, it's just that they'll be very quick missions that you've seen me do before, so I'm not too stressed about that. I may just kind of move through those. We have the solar back, which no spoilers, but that should be a fun mission that's coming up fairly soon. And then once we have done these two geosat tests, then I'll be able to do my telnet mission, where I have managed to find a way to make the process of putting 3 probes into a geostationary orbit a faster, a little bit more streamlined process. So we will see what that is when we get to it. So we've got some fun things, but I am going to insert the mission to the fly past the moon again, because I really need to not fail that mission. That would be really quite devastating. It would cost me 4 million funds and definitely fail my space program. Like I'm not sure that there's anything that I could do to get out from a $4 million or credit loss at this point. But we still have years and years, so we're fine. Like this should not be that much of an issue. But yeah, that's basically the plan. I think that's actually a nice poignant place to leave it. So I am going to stop it here for now. But yeah, leave it on a sad note, little bittersweet note. We had some great times with those 2 astronauts in the early Gemini program, and then the first explorers of the moon have proven to us just how hard it is to deal with re-entry when your mission planner is a doofus. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Like and subscribe. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will see you next time.